Today we're going to be talking about something that I never used to really understand the appeal of. Anal beads. Whether you don't like them or you do and fancy an upgrade, keep watching, because I have the perfect upgrade for you. The LELO Soraya beads. Now, before I fully show you this upgrade, let's talk about a bit of anatomy. Because like I said, I never used to really understand the appeal of anal beads. But that's because I didn't know how to use them and why they could feel so good. That tight sensation when something is first being inserted can feel very intense, but if done slowly and correctly, can be very pleasurable. And here's why. The first 2 inches of your butt, known as the anal canal, is surrounded by the sphincters, both the internal and the external. Now, the primary purpose of both is to remain tight and to keep us continent, but that tightness can be played with. Once you've pushed past the sphincters and into the rectum, you get that sudden feeling of release. Anyone who's experimented with backdoor play will understand that. The external part of the entrance, known as the anus, is also densely packed with nerve endings, which is why having it eaten can feel so good. Now, the purpose of beads isn't about speed, it's not about depth, it's about playing with the tightness upon entry. The primary aim when it comes to backdoor play, specifically penetration, is to get the butt to a place where there's very little resistance and you can thrust with ease. So trying to get past that initial tightness is often something people see as more of a chore, which is why they can rush through it and get to an injury, rather than seeing that initial tightness as something to gently play with. So the purpose of anal beads is about gently teasing the entrance with that constant opening, closing sensation. There are so many different types of beads available. Some of them prioritize depth with very little girth. Some of them prioritize a little bit more girth and are more for beginners. Some of them are a mixture of the two. And some are even shaped less round to create more resistance when you're removing them, hence the very long and elasticated handle. All of them can create very unique and incredible sensations if used correctly, which includes pushing out when they're being removed. Yes, I mean pushing out like you're going to the toilet, trust me. But there's one sensation that majority of beads can't provide: vibration. The LELO Soraya anal beads vibrate. They're just stepping their game up time and time again. Now, anal beads in general are not intended for rapid insertion. They're intended for slow and sensual play. And that's incredibly important to note with the Soraya beads. The reason being is that compared to traditional beads, they are much more solid. They do have a faint amount of movement, but it's very important with a toy like this to take it easy. Otherwise, it's just going to feel like you're jabbing yourself in there. Now, the Soraya beads are one of the few LELO toys that require active work, with the main purpose being the gentle insertion and removal, which is why, whilst yes, they are good for solo play, they can be very good for partnered play, especially when you do this. The bow motion technology used within Soraya beads means that the vibrations take place in each individual bead. And depending on what mode you're using, the vibrations cascade up and down the beads. And the Soraya beads have 8 different pleasure settings. Jesus! Oh, I forgot that setting existed. Ooh, that is insane. Now, the Soraya beads are one of the few LELO products left that aren't app controlled, but with the placement of the buttons, that isn't a problem. You have a very clear on button on the handle that you can hold down to turn it on. Once the toy is on, you just tap the on button again to cycle through the settings. Then you can use the plus and minus buttons to cycle through the intensity, and once you are finally worn out, you just hold the on button again until it turns off. The Soraya beads are also great for beginners because of the cascading size in the beads, meaning that you can gradually work your way up to a bigger size. Key word there being gradual. But what's really important to note about Soraya or any other beads is that they shouldn't be used for dilation. Whilst you can work your way up to a bigger size of bead, it's not going to help you gradually take something bigger in the long term. And the reason for that is because of the thin stem between the beads. At resting, the sphincters are going to tighten around the thin stems. So they're great for some slower and more sensual feelings aimed at the opening and closing of your butt, as well as your first time exploring butt play, but they're not going to help train you to take someone who's hung like a horse. Now, a lot of the reviews I've done for LELO products so far have been very focused on P-spot and penis owners, being one myself. But the beauty of the Soraya beads is that not only can they be used by all anatomies, they actually have their own unique benefits. For P-spot owners, the Soraya beads can be used to stimulate the prostate. This is how Soraya would look being used by a P-spot owner. The prostate sits between the bladder and the rectum and sits about 2 inches inside. Whereas for vulva owners, the A-spot, sometimes known as the female prostate, is about 4 to 5 inches inside of the vagina and sits between the cervix and the bladder. It's about 1 inch or 2 deeper than the G-spot, and like the prostate, is on the front wall, which is closest to your belly button. Whilst the A-spot is directly stimulated through the vagina, because of its proximity to the rectum, it can be indirectly stimulated through the anus. So for either anatomy, it's pretty similar, except if you're going for the A-spot, you're just going a bit further in. And stimulating the A-spot is great for boosting vaginal lubrication, increasing arousal, and increasing your chance of an orgasm. So if you're a trans man or masc who still enjoys some butt play, you don't need to worry about there not being a prostate there, because you have your own version just a little bit higher up. It's important to mention that P-spot and A-spot G-spot stimulation is not going to be possible with traditional beads because you're not going to be able to point that anywhere. But because of the Soraya beads' more solid and pointed design, you're able to angle it much better and choose what you're going to be stimulating. As always, I'm not going to sit here telling you how incredible this toy is without giving you a wonderful 20% off using code MAX20 at checkout on the LELO website. This is also a stackable discount, so if there are things already on sale on there, you can treat yourself to an extra 20% off on me. And you can find the Soraya beads linked in the description below, because maybe it's time to slow it down, focus less on size and speed, and focus a little bit more on the slower, more intimate sensations. And this is why I teach you about the body, because if I had understood the butt a little bit better when I was younger, I would have understood much sooner why anal beads are so popular. But hopefully with this video, you're learning that sooner than I did. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you learned something. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment any feedback or suggestions below. Please also check out our Substack, where you will find completely free sex education content, some articles on queer discourse, our clinic column, which is like an agony aunt for gay sex. So if there's anything you want to ask questions on, please feel free to give us an email. And there's even some very spicy literotica for our paid subscribers. And I'll see you next time, where we'll talk more about having better, safer queer sex.